Hello there. Welcome into a Thursday edition of Drive Time Sports live from Trainwreck at 812 South Sierra Madre Street. I am here because the Broncos have the prime time stage tonight as they take on the New Orleans Saints. Plenty on that game over the course of the program, along with a smattering of other topics. Appreciate you tuning in, although I would love to see you out here at Trainwreck. I am not above bribing you to come out and join me because I have Air Force CSU tickets for Saturday. I have Air Force hockey season tickets to every remaining home game. And our friends here at Trainwreck, along with their friends at Modelo, have given us a $50 Fanatics gift card to give away over the course of these next 3 hours as well. So we got, and Air Force swag. If I could see Ray, we have there he is. Hi, Ray. We have the full force of Extra Sports 1300. Ray Dominguez is here with me at Trainwreck, and DJ Michael's back at the Extra Sports 1300 studios over the course of the next 3 hours. If you would like to interact with the show, of course, the easiest way for you to do that is to just come out here to Trainwreck and talk directly to my face. Or you could text or call into the show 719-247-1313. And yes, for those of you watching the live stream on our social media platforms, I will enlist the help of Ray to get a better angle here. It's too high, and when I sit in my normal posture, like half of my face goes away. We'll deal with it later. We're all good. A lot of football on the slate today to talk about, but I do want to start with hockey because for the first time since 1998, the Colorado Avalanche have started a season 0-4. As they lost to the Boston Bruins, another crooked number given up in terms of goals. But I will say this, because we have to throw out the disclaimer right away when we're talking about the Avalanche. Alexander Georgiev was not good in the first period. He was great. Alexander Georgiev, for the first 22 to 25 minutes of that hockey game, was outstanding and the only thing keeping the Avalanche in that game. So this is not necessarily one of those Alexander Georgiev discussions. I don't think it really applies to last night. But what I will say is this. Jared Bednar went in with the right game plan. This team is so banged up right now that any attempt by them to play their normal style of hockey, fast-paced, get up and down the ice, well, you saw with that against the Islanders or against Vegas. When this team plays how it normally does, the style of play, with who they have missing, it is disastrous. It just leaves them more vulnerable to odd man rushes and to giving up goals on the other end. And I'll say this for Jared Bednar and the Colorado Avalanche. I thought out of necessity, they had the best game plan they possibly could, which was stay home, don't overcommit, don't get too eager to get down the ice, defend first, and if you get a breakout, so be it. The problem is, for the Colorado Avalanche to play that style of hockey, that is like you ever meet the people that are overzealous, like cat owners, and they put like the little booties on their cat and how they like awkwardly walk around because it's not natural and it's like uncomfortable to watch them? That was the Colorado Avalanche last night. It looked so unnatural for this team to play stay-at-home defensive hockey and to fight the urge to go down the ice, to get out in open ice with Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen and try and score goals. And it was so awkward that the Avs didn't even really do that good of a job of it. So the game plan was right. The execution was totally off because the majority of Boston's goals last night were scored right in front of Alexander Georgiev. The one place that you would think playing that style of hockey that the Avalanche would be able to protect is the net front. And yet Boston consistently found themselves in front of Georgiev, making it very difficult on him to make saves. So this is a look from the Colorado Avalanche that I do not hope to see for the long term. But I understand why Jared Bednar is implementing it the way he is, because they have so many guys lost. And I think now you kind of elevate Devon Toews to the top of the list even more than a Jonathan Drouin, even more than setting aside Gabriel Landeskog because he's the great unknown. Even right now, setting aside Valeri Nichushkin, missing Devon Toews just really screws up everything that the Colorado Avalanche want to do. And I think Cale Makar had a big bounce back game, and Jared Bednar talked about it afterwards. He thought Cale Makar was really good. But not having Devon Toews throws everything on the blue line, everything defensively out of whack. And it's why Devon Toews is the most underrated player in the NHL. Bar none. There's not a player that is more underrated than that guy. I felt for Jared Bednar last night because I thought the plan was sound, and also looking at his line combinations. Not just to start the game, which was stark as it is, but as the game progressed, I am 90% sure that Jared Bednar played every possible combination that he could have. Defensemen, forwards. I expected, and I believe that's 180. Someone can check my math. But I believe the Avs lineup last night had 180 different combinations, and I think Jared Bednar used 178 of them. So maybe not all of them. I fully expected at some point him to roll out 3 defensemen, him to roll out 4 forwards. Like he was just, you saw a coach and a team just trying to grab onto anything that worked for any period of time last night. And unfortunately, there just was nothing outside of one thing. There was one thing that kept the Avalanche in that hockey game, and it's one thing that we don't know when Toews is back. We don't know when Drouin is back. Obviously, the other absences are down the road a little bit. Until some of that cavalry arrives, the Avs are going to have to lean heavily on their power play. That is how they produced offense. And whatever combination Jared Bednar threw out there, because he's missing guys from his top power play unit, obviously. Ross Colton, I thought, was really good on the top power play unit. It didn't matter who you plugged in with Nathan MacKinnon and Makar and Mikko Rantanen. It worked. And right now, the Colorado Avalanche have the top power play unit in the NHL. That is about the only thing that you can look to as a positive out of these first 4 games. And I think it's something until they get healthier. And they did not get healthier last night. They got more banged up. Miles Wood takes that check, and now he's out. They're not getting healthier. They're getting less healthy. But until they get healthier, this is going to be a team that has to become something that I think a lot of Avalanche fans despise because of the teams that employ this. I think they're going to have to be they're going to have to be penalty merchants. They're going to have to be. And what was the big conversation in the MVP race last year? Nikita Kucherov. Look at the number of goals he had on the power play. Look at how many goals he had empty net. That's how the Avs are going to have to do this. They're not going to be able to generate a lot 5-on-5 because I expect Jared Bednar to continue this mode of being defense first, don't take chances, and how do you open things up? How do you score goals in that situation? You take penalties, you get on the power play, and you score. This is not a fun time to be a Colorado Avalanche. It is not. And to put last night in some historic context, I mentioned for the first time since 1998, the Avs are 0-4 to start a season. If you recall, that season ended up as well as it could be. They were, I believe, one game away, and I have our resident Avalanche historian back in the studio. He can confirm this. I believe they came one win shy of going to the Stanley Cup final that year. So that's what a lot of people are clinging to when it comes to this Avs team. I'm here to tell you there are two huge differences between that team and this team. One, even though Alexander Georgiev was very good last night, that team had Patrick Waugh. No matter how good Alexander Georgiev is, he is not 33. So that's first of all. And he had something like a 2.3 goals allowed average that year. Okay. The other difference is, and there's some similarities in there. The Avalanche were integrating some young players into a roster that had recently won a Stanley Cup. The two young players, most notably, that they were blending with the Sakic's, the Forsbergs, the Ozolinches, the Foots of the world, Milan Hajduk and Chris Drury. With all due respect to Cal Ritchie, to Kovalenko, to some of these young players that the Avs have, none of them are Chris Drury and none of them are Milan Hajduk. Part of the reason why the Avs started so slow out of the gate back in that year was because they were integrating these rookies that finished, I believe, in two of the top three Calder Trophy spots. The upside is not necessarily there with these rookies that the Avs are playing. So I say that to say they need the cavalry. Okay, if you think that the team as currently constructed, without getting back Gabriel Landeskog to give them something, without getting back Jonathan Drouin, without getting back Arturi Lehkonen, without getting back Devon Toews, is going to have enough to dig themselves out of the hole that they are creating, you're wrong. They need them. So, best laid plans. Chris McFarland said we're not waiting for the cavalry. They need the cavalry desperately because these young players don't have the ceiling that Milan Hajduk and Chris Drury had back in 98, 99. Now, one other thing from this game, and it's about a rookie. If these rookies are not, and Cal Ritchie might be the exception, certainly a highly touted young player in the Avs system, he has a chance. Certainly he has a higher ceiling than some of these other guys. But if you don't have the skill level, if you don't have that kind of a ceiling, you do exactly what Mason Steinberg did last night. Mason Steinberg, it was the hero of last night's game because the Avs were going nowhere. And Mason Steinberg took a run at Pavel Zacha, checked him into the boards, knowing, well, maybe he didn't know. I don't want to give him too much credit on this, but if you mess with somebody on the Boston Bruins, you have to deal with Big Z, Nikita Zadorov. And I don't know if Steinberg knew it, but he had to deal with him. And I will give the young man a ton of credit. He stood in there skate to skate with Nikita Zadorov, and that is not a fun thing to do. Mason Steinberg, just with that. I don't know what Jared Bednar's plans were for Steinberg. You got to keep him around. You got to keep him around. He's earned that. He came in, and Cal Ritchie the other night against the Islanders scoring a goal. That's what you want to see. Mason Steinberg coming in as a fourth line winger and getting physical and throwing hands with one of the biggest, baddest dudes in the league. That dude has earned some extra time in Denver. So there was one rookie last night that I think stood out and played a major role in the Avs swinging that game in their favor. But ultimately, with all the players missing, and I loved what Connor McGahey said in his pregame interview last night with Jared Bednar, because it's something that I have said on this program before, not just with the Avalanche, but with any team in any sport. There are reasons and there are excuses. Many people will characterize injuries as an excuse, and Jared Bednar did that. But Connor McGahey made a point when he was talking to Jared Bednar before the game. The injuries are becoming a reason now, and I think that is perfectly stated. They are without Jonathan. They're without three of their top six forwards. Okay, mix and match them however you want. You play Nichushkin on the top line, you play Duran on the top line, doesn't matter. Three of your top six forwards. You can even leave out Landeskog. You have your best defensive defenseman, who is a part of the best deep pairing in the league, who is out. You have depth on your third line now with Miles Wood out. Your fourth line is a hodgepodge. The injuries are becoming a reason. It wasn't Georgiev last night, but it was a very similar refrain for the Colorado Avalanche. It didn't look natural. It wasn't well executed, and they were thoroughly outplayed by the Boston Bruins last night. And now they look. We'll see what happens with Nashville tonight. If Nashville takes Edmonton at least to overtime, the Avalanche will be the lone remaining team in the National Hockey League without a point. And I said this yesterday. If I would have told you at any point other than after night one that the Colorado Avalanche would have that honor, you would not have believed me. No matter how low your expectations to the start of the season were, it's been worse. And I don't know when the cavalry is returning. It might be a little bit. 719-247-1313. Drive Time Sports live from Trainwreck. Come out and join us. 812 South Sierra Madre. There are a lot of sports things on tonight. Of course, all the ESPN and Fox Sports 1 shows are talking about tonight's game between the Saints and the Broncos. And coming up next, why don't I get into it a little bit? Why this should absolutely be a bounce-back effort from the Broncos defense, even without its best player. That's next on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre Street. This is the place you want to be for Denver and New Orleans tonight. The largest television in Colorado Springs is 10 feet away from me, and it is glorious. Plus, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about 23 TVs that I can see from where I'm sitting without straining my neck, just looking left to right a little bit. Yeah, definitely come on out here. Check out their revamped menu, drink specials, all sorts of things going on we'll tell you about throughout the program. But 812 South Sierra Madre Street, of course. We're also giving away Air Force CSU tickets, Air Force hockey season tickets, and also a $50 Fanatics gift card, as well as some Air Force swag for you to take to Saturday's game. And that is, you don't even have to enter. We just have it. We want to give it to you. So come down. It's about a block away from Widener Field. So if you're a Switchbacks fan, you know exactly where I am talking about. So the main event of the evening, Denver and New Orleans, primetime game for the Denver Broncos, coming off of a tough loss to the Chargers. I have a lot of thoughts on this game, but the one I feel best about, and the one that I must be proven right in, the Denver Broncos defense must look like themselves tonight. And I know they're without Pat Surtain, right? But now you've had a few days. The shock of losing him in the middle of the game has worn off. I didn't love the way the Broncos handled that anyway. The comments from Riley Moss were very telling about how fragile this team is. But you get a few days, you game plan to not have him. It should look better without him than it did against LA. The New Orleans Saints are the walking wounded on the offensive side of the football. Obviously, the big injury, Derek Carr, still out. Spencer Rattler will make just his second NFL start tonight. They are also missing, or at least listed on the injury report, one lineman is out, one is questionable. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, two of their top weapons in the passing game, are out. Their leading wide receiver is Bub Means. Have you ever heard of him? Nor have I. He was their leading receiver for the wide receiver position the other day against Tampa Bay. 5 catches for 45 yards. He had the only receiving touchdown of that game. That's not to say that you don't have to think about Foster Moreau. And it doesn't mean you don't have to think about Alvin Kamara. But Alvin Kamara has been limited in practice all week. He's banged up. There's no Taysom Hill, even though Sean Payton knows him very well. Still, there's that additional dynamic of whenever they're going to employ this guy. Kamara at 100% should worry you as a Denver Bronco. Kamara at 75% or whatever he is right now, they should be able to compensate for it, especially considering everything else that the Saints are dealing with right now. This team is reeling. This team is starting a rookie quarterback. There is zero excuse, even without Patrick Surtain. There is zero excuse for this defense not to play well tonight. And I think the game plan against this Saints team is exactly the type of game plan that Vance Joseph will love. If I'm him, I blitz the bejesus out of Spencer Rattler. I go after him constantly, nonstop, bringing pressure all the time. This guy is making just his second start in the NFL in prime time, with the greatest player in the history of that franchise being immortalized at halftime. with the former head coach making his homecoming. Spencer Rattler has got to be feeling some nerves, and the Broncos have to keep him nervous by pressuring him nonstop. And it shouldn't be a problem. This is what the Denver Broncos do. So I think you can have a little bit more trust in Jaquan McMillan and Riley Moss on the outside, given that the Saints are really banged up in their wide receiving core. Trust them to play man coverage and go after Spencer Rattler. Now, the offensive side of the football, that's another story, and I'll get into that. But there is no excuse tonight for the Denver Broncos defense not to look like they did for basically every game leading up to the Charger game. They should be able to get after Spencer Rattler to force some mistakes, and I think that will be obviously it'll be huge for the Broncos offense. That is a big question mark after what happened against LA, and especially with the running game. Give the offense short fields, let them operate. The formula should be there. And I'm going to say it over and over again. Broncos are favored by 3. That may lead you in a direction of taking the Saints plus the points, and that's fine. But I'm telling you, Broncos should win this game. Short turnaround, emotions of Sean Payton returning to New Orleans and all of that. The Broncos should win this game. And it should be their defense that leads the way. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts and predictions on tonight's game. Drive Time Sports live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre Street. Coming up next, I am only doing this segment because of my on-site producer, Ray. We had a discussion earlier today. The engagement farmers at the Four Letter Network are at it again. They have released in advance of the NBA season their top 100 players. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about Nikola Jokic's spot. But how about some of these other Denver Nuggets? We'll get into it next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre Street. Come out and join us. Sign up to win Air Force CSU tickets for Saturday, Air Force hockey season tickets, minus a couple of games, but everything from here on out. Army, CC this weekend against Lindenwood, the whole 9 from here on out, you can win. And the folks at Trainwreck and Modelo have given us a $50 gift card to Fanatics. Perhaps find your next jersey you're going to wear on game days. You can sign up to win all of it. We also have Air Force swag to give away. You don't have to sign up for that. Just find Ray, which won't be hard because he's standing right near me, and him up for a hat or a shirt, or I think we even got jackets. So we got a lot out here. And then, of course, you could stick around, have a meal, have a beverage, and get ready for the Broncos and the Saints. To that end, I mentioned that Shaheed is out for tonight's game along with Chris Olave. The Saints have actually, well, I don't know if this is official from the Saints or ESPN is reporting, but it is a report from ESPN that Shaheed is out for the rest of the season. So, long-term implications for the New Orleans Saints. But as far as tonight, whether Shaheed is out just tonight or for the rest of the season, he's not playing against the Broncos. And that is a field stretcher. That is somebody who can attack the suddenly less deep secondary of the Denver Broncos. And look, there's one of the Broncos players that's been hurt is back. Baron Browning is going to be in the lineup tonight. So we'll see where he is in the rotation, if he is back where he was at among the top pass rush duo with Jonathan Cooper, or whether they bring him in on third downs. We'll see how the Broncos utilize Baron Browning. But if the plan tonight, which it should be, is to get after Spencer Rattler all the time, to have another pass rusher in the mix like Baron Browning coming off of the IR, that is certainly helpful to the Broncos' cause here tonight. Next week, we will get into one of the most magical times on the calendar, because we will have we may have the World Series by next week. We should have the World Series by next week. NHL season has already begun. We'd be in the middle of college football and NFL season, and then we're going to add the NBA to the mix. And locally, it means the Denver Nuggets. Well, in honor of the NBA season coming back, the engagement farmers, and I don't like a lot about J.J. Redick, especially now that he's a head coach. Like, for a guy that's in the media, he doesn't deal with the media very well. But that's neither here nor there. Calling ESPN engagement farmers is something that I have stolen and appropriated and will use till my dying days. The engagement farmers at ESPN put out a list of the top 100 NBA players. They do this every year. And I am pleased to report that all it took was a third MVP in 4 years for Nikola Jokic to finally take over the number one spot as the best player in the NBA, even by ESPN standards. I fully expected them to put Joel Embiid up there. But Nikola Jokic has moved from number 2 to number 1. So put away your pitchforks and torches when it comes to Nikola Jokic. He's where he should be, number 1 player in the NBA. Luka Doncic is number 2. Giannis took a bit of a tumble. I want to get back into the top 10 in a little bit, but sticking with the Nuggets, because I do think there's some interesting inclusions that I believe are Olympic related when it comes to the top 10. And I don't think that's what they should be judging. But anyway, Jamal Murray is actually the most interesting case, because Jamal Murray is 31 on this list. Jamal Murray was 17th coming off the title run. Now, you may argue that 17th was too low, but the fact that he drops 14 spots to 31. And now he is just above Chet Holmgren, right below Karl Anthony Towns, which obviously has some significance if you're a Nuggets fan. The fact that Jamal Murray is now beneath Karl Anthony Towns. Towns, interestingly enough, also dropped from 20 down to 30. But Jamal Murray being 31 and taking one of the more precipitous drops of any player in the NBA, I don't think he is undeserving of it. The concerns that surround him on what he can bring on a consistent basis year in and year out, I think is something that we're going to be talking about as we get into the season and throughout the season. But I think people who do these kind of lists, people who cover the NBA, are taking notice that Jamal Murray may not be consistently the player that we saw on that title run. And I'm asking those same questions. I will say that I'm more amenable to the idea that he is than maybe ESPN or some other national NBA people. But I have those same questions. So I don't think it is undeserving that Jamal Murray has dropped like he has. Now, Ray, who is producing on site for me today, came up to me and very adamant proclaimed that ESPN did Michael Porter Jr. dirty. Those were his exact words. Wasn't it? You did him dirty? Yeah. Exact words. He is 89th. Michael Porter is the 89th best player in the NBA, according to ESPN. And when I heard that number, I was like, I don't think that's totally undeserving. You know, we always ask for, and this applies to Jamal Murray too, we always make the case, stop ranking Joel Embiid so high. Joel Embiid is ranked high for what he does during the regular season, which he's on part-time duty. Now he's not even going to play back-to-backs anymore for the rest of his career. We constantly pound the table to get Joel Embiid to drop out of the conversation of best player in the NBA because of, one, his availability, but two, his performance in the postseason. We have a league right now that has more parity than we have seen for decades. And yet a guy that has not gotten out of the second round is in the conversation for the best player in the NBA with the supporting cast. It's not like Joel Embiid hasn't had help. Now, he hasn't had the help that some of these other stars have had, but he's had help. And we constantly say, you got to drop Embiid. Embiid's got to be lower on these lists. Embiid can't be in the conversation for the best player in the NBA. Well, Michael Porter, the last 2 years, has faded as the postseason has gone on. And I think it's okay that people take that into account. The question is that enough to make him barely in the top 90? So Ray and I mapped it out. And lo and behold, I do think Michael Porter Jr. is quite low on this list because we had him in like the 50s or 60s when we mapped it out just off the top of our heads. This guy's better. And obviously I'm going to save you from that exercise. Just know that we had him in the, 58, 59, 60, 61, somewhere in there, which is still much higher than ESPN has. And then you start to look at some of these players, and the most interesting one, as Ray pointed out to me, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, former Denver Nugget. Where was he, Ray? 70-something? 69. Nice. That is not. So you go through and you say, is he better than this guy? Is he better than this guy? And comparing. I have been somebody who has sounded a bit of an alarm when it comes to losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And I do acknowledge that he plays better defense than Michael Porter will ever play in his career. But take into account the rebounding, take into account the scoring and the shooting. Michael Porter Jr. losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not losing a player that was the Nuggets' fourth best player, essentially. By the way, Aaron Gordon was in the top 50. Moved up a couple of spots from last year. Michael Porter is the fourth best player on the Denver Nuggets. Not Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a key member of a championship team. He is part of what makes the Denver Nuggets have arguably the best starting five in the NBA. And I have been somebody who has said losing him will hurt the Denver Nuggets to a degree. But Michael Porter Jr., all in all, is a better player than Kentavious Caldwell. So I think it's postseason. And I think, because it's not like KCP is in LA anymore. So it's not market size. It's not East Coast bias, even though Orlando is technically on the East Coast. I think it's defense. I think it's Michael Porter's defense or lack thereof that is holding him down on this list, and I don't think it's entirely fair. Now, let's be also honest about these lists, especially when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. You can play this to the apps. When it's the Denver Broncos or the Colorado Rockies, if there's anybody worth being ranked, it's fine to be like, hey, you know, this guy's ranked in the 80s. That's not true. He's a top 50 player, all that kind of stuff. When you have player 1, player 39, player 49, it's harder to get up in arms about lists like these. But I will say that Michael Porter Jr. is a little bit lower than he should be. He should probably be, essentially swap him with KCP. Or put Porter in KCP's place and then probably move up KCP a little bit because that would be too low to have him. So Michael Porter is too low, but I think everyone else is pretty well ranked. So don't worry, there will be something else for Nuggets fans to get a complex about when it comes to the national media. I don't think where these guys are ranked would necessarily qualify as that. Let me go back to the top 10 on this list. So Jokic is 1. Luka moves up from 4 to 2. I have no problem with that. Giannis dropping from 1 to 3. No problem with that. Shea, who a lot of people are going to have as the MVP this year, at 4. I don't have a problem with. Jason Tatum with 5. I have a little bit of an issue with that, but I am a Jaylen Brown apologist. I am a Jaylen Brown supporter, and I believe that Jaylen Brown is more valuable to the Boston Celtics than Jason Tatum. However, Jason Tatum is a more talented player than Jaylen Brown. And coming off of a title, give Jason Tatum credit. But then we get into the guys that represented Team USA. Steph Curry 6, LeBron 7, Embiid 8, Kevin Durant 9, Anthony Edwards 10. I think that Edwards is too low. And I think that these Team USA guys are being included because of the Olympics. Steph Curry's only dropping 1 spot. LeBron moved up 2 spots. Embiid fell from 3 to 8. And Kevin Durant fell from 7 to 9. So these guys are falling. But this new generation, this next wave, I should say, of NBA player, I think Anthony Edwards is a better player right now than I think I would put him over KD. And here's why. Yes, we saw Kevin Durant and what he did for Team USA, and he was phenomenal. But you have to look at what he's doing in the NBA and say that Kevin Durant on Team USA is much different than Kevin Durant on the Phoenix Suns. And I'm not a proponent of dropping KD, in out of the top 15, top 20. He's still one of those players. But Anthony Edwards, what he did, especially if you're going to look at what the Timberwolves did and say, well, Karl Anthony Towns drops. Okay, well then Anthony Edwards needs to be elevated quite a bit if you're not saying that Karl Anthony Towns had a big role to play in the Timberwolves' success last year. And Rudy Gobert's far down on the list. Naz Reid's far down on the list. I look and I think Anthony Edwards should be higher. I don't have an issue with where Victor Wembanyama is, but just know he is at 11 now. He is going to be probably one of the top 5 players in the NBA by the time this season is over. Because you already saw the early signs, but he's only going into a second year. That's fine. Jalen Brunson, I think, should be higher on this list. I think I would go Jokic 1, Luka 2, Giannis 3. I have no problem with that. Shea 4, Edwards 5, Tatum 6. Then if you want to go LeBron, Steph, KD, Joel Embiid. I guess I don't have a big issue with the top 10 now that I'm thinking about it, but definitely move those guys around. Anthony Edwards needs to be higher. But, you're going to show deference towards legends like Curry and LeBron and Embiid, or not Embiid, what am I talking about? Durant. I was looking at the list. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about Joel Embiid. Gotta have Edwards higher. But Jokic 1, agree with that. Precipitous drop for Jamal Murray. I think that's deserved. Aaron Gordon, you could probably move up a few slots, and I think you could probably move Michael Porter up about 10 or 15 rungs, honestly, where he is. But let's be honest. When it comes to the Nuggets, the only player that Nuggets fans really worry about, really, in terms of how they are perceived by the national media, by the NBA, is Nikola Jokic. That's the one that people will go to the mat for. Jamal Murray, not so much. Michael Porter Jr., I think there are a fair amount of Nuggets fans that are like, that's a fine place for him to be. Aaron Gordon, I think there's a soft spot for him, and people appreciate what his role is on this team, so they would probably want to see him move up. But as long as Jokic is where he's at on this list, I think most Nuggets fans will be okay, because that's the fight that you've been fighting for years. 719-247-1313. Coming up tonight, of course, New Orleans and Denver. The current line on Circa Sportsbook Colorado is New Orleans +3. And I would say this is as good a night as any to take a look and see the experience that Circa is bringing to the table when it comes to sports betting apps. I've used, and if you follow along with this show long enough, I've used other ones. And the folks at Circa came to me and they said, Ryan, we think that we've done some things to create a better experience for the bettor. I said, for me? And they're like, yeah, you. And I tried it. I price shopped back and forth, and now I only have Circa Sports Colorado on my phone. They strive to keep as little money as possible on large market bets like futures, golf tournaments. They don't limit winnings for winning players. They don't cap you on that like other sports books will do. And if you ever have an issue, just know you'll talk to real people, the same people that are behind Circa Resort and Casino in Vegas are going to help you out. It's about the experience. That's what they bring to you when you visit them in Vegas, and that's what they want to bring to the Circa Sports Colorado app. So download it today and see for yourself. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming up next, shouldn't Bo Nix be, for the first time this season, expected to be the best quarterback on the field? We'll talk about it next on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in, Drive Time Sports on this Thursday, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre Street. Be a great place for you to make plans to watch New Orleans and Denver tonight, the largest TV in Colorado Springs, and plenty of other, I'll call them supporting televisions for you to watch the game tonight. I am here until 6 o'clock, and Ray, who's helping me out here today, and myself have brought a lot of goodies, including Air Force CSU football tickets, including Air Force hockey season tickets. And the folks here at Trainwreck, along with their friends from Modelo, have given us a $50 Fanatics gift card to give away while we are here as well. So come out, sign up, and we'll be drawing a bunch of winners a little bit later. If you can't make it out but still want to interact with the show, you know you can do so on the text or phone line, which are the same number for your convenience, 719-247-1313. Tonight is a little bit different than other Broncos games that we have had so far this season, because I think and this has nothing to do with the Thursday turnaround or being in prime time. I think for the first time this season, you can expect without equivocation that the Denver Broncos will have the best quarterback in tonight's game. That was not the case against Seattle. That wasn't the case against Pittsburgh. That wasn't the case against Tampa. That wasn't the case against the Jets. That wasn't the case against the Chargers. You may say, well, what about the Raiders and Gardner Minshew? That is arguable. But that's my point. Is that given where Bo Nix was and what at the time he had played, 3 games? You can't without a doubt say that Bo Nix was going to be the better quarterback in the Raider game regardless, right? Because Gardner Minshew has done more in the NFL than Bo Nix did. You might be right, but there's a question. Tonight, there should be no question. Bo Nix should be the best quarterback in tonight's game. That should be the expectation going in. You have Spencer Rattler on the other side making just his second NFL start, and we remember how Bo Nix, it's not that different. Think about what Bo Nix looked like against Pittsburgh and apply that to Spencer Rattler. That's really what Spencer Rattler should look like. Because I do think that the Broncos defense is going to look more like themselves in tonight's game. So Bo Nix is in kind of a different position that now he is expected to be the better quarterback on the field. The question is, and I've been asking it all week, will Sean Payton let him showcase that he is the best quarterback in this game? I don't know. And I don't think that if this team is going to start to go more no huddle, get him out on the roll more, all this kind of stuff that we've been identifying as, hey, this is where Bo Nix is best. I don't know if a short week is the right time to say, okay, we're fundamentally changing everything that we've been doing. However, when I was pointing out the situations yesterday that Bo Nix excels in and the ones he has struggled in, one of the things that he is right now is very dependent on the defense he is going up against. The Raiders aren't a good defense. Seattle, we thought was a good defense, but now some of the shine has worn off as we've gone along. Seattle's, I think, 25th in defense. Tampa Bay, same thing. Tampa Bay does not have a good defense. Those have been the best performances of Bo Nix's season. In terms of total yards, There is no defense worse than the New Orleans Saints. So even if Sean Payton does not unleash Bo Nix, does not tailor his entire game plan to what we've seen Bo Nix be successful in over the last few weeks, Bo Nix should actually do well in a lot of ways, right? Shouldn't face a ton of pressure, should have some receivers with a skosh, a smidge of separation. He should be able to win a little bit from the pocket tonight. Now, one of the biggest questions I have about Bo Nix is his accuracy. So just because he may get the time to throw and he may get wide receivers open, can he hit them? And that will be something I'm looking out for tonight. But this Saints defense has been absolutely torched throughout this season. And whether he's going to play the way Sean Payton wants him to play, where he's going to be allowed to do these kind of off-script, out-of-the-pocket athletic stuff that he has been successful at, Bo Nix should be able to do well against this Saints defense. And I would go so far as to say that this performance should rank right up there with the Tampa Bay game. And why I say Tampa as opposed to Vegas is because Vegas, a lot of it came late. And that's been one of my big things with Bo Nix. A lot of his production is later in the game when it's already decided. And that was the case with Las Vegas. He ran up his numbers towards the end of the game when the Broncos were in no danger of losing it. Aiden O'Connell was in the game. The Broncos were up by double digits. That's when Bo Nix shined. In Tampa, that was really, while it wasn't as prolific maybe as the Vegas game, it was a start to finish strong quarterbacking performance from Bo Nix. Tonight should look like that. The more and more I dig into this game, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm like, I don't care that Denver's on a short turnaround. I actually think that, yeah, they got to go on the road, but I think the short turnaround hurts New Orleans more. I really do. And we've come to learn over the last few years, home field advantage is not all that it's cracked up to be. Now, what I will say is that building can get very, very loud. So I think Bo Nix can have success. I think this Broncos team can win the game, but what is absolutely vital is they have got to get off to a better start. They absolutely have to. And that has been a thing with them all season long. And in fact, DJ, if you have the clips up, believe there is Bo Nix talking about how they can get off to better starts if you don't mind playing them. And he kind of, even though he tried to make it like, I don't know because I'm just 6 games in, he kind of answered the question. What is the reason why the Broncos haven't started off better in games? Lack of execution. Lack of execution. You saw early in that Chargers game, Bo Nix threw the pick on 3rd down, and that was a manageable 3rd down that they should have converted. And he's inaccurate with the football and gets it picked off. There was another 3rd down that was getting ready to be manageable, and then they had a pre-snap penalty on Garrett Bowles. So literally, it's the execution. I feel like who is that economist? Robert Reich, I think. It's the economy, stupid. Who said that? That wasn't Robert Reich. That was somebody predating him. Anyway, it's the execution, Bo. That's exactly what it is. You're acting like you don't know. You know exactly what it is. This team has committed penalties. Bo Nix has been inaccurate with the football, and they haven't been able to run the ball consistently. It's literally just execution. That's what's keeping it. It's not the game plan. It's not urgency. He's right. They want to do well. And tonight, getting off to a better start is going to be paramount, because the one thing that could have all of this crashing down, all of my expectations and all of yours, if you're a Broncos fan, come crashing down, is if these New Orleans fans have a reason early to get even louder. They're going to be loud right out of the gate, right? Sean Payton making his return. They'll probably show Drew Brees, even though he's being honored at a halftime. They'll probably show him. This fan base will be in a tizzy. It will be loud. It is imperative on the Denver Broncos, and I would expect if they win the coin toss tonight, they will defer. They want their defense on the field early because they want to silence this crowd by getting after Spencer Rattler early. But if those plans don't come to fruition and the Broncos offense starts with the football, they got to execute, because every drive that they go 3 and out or Bo Nix throws an interception, that fan base is going to stay loud through the rest of that game. They want a reason. They already have all these reasons to be excited, to be loud. The Broncos can't give them more early on in that game. The best script for tonight: Broncos win the toss. They defer. And they get after Spencer Rattler right out of the gate, make the Saints fans be like, oh no, this might be a long night. And then the Broncos get the ball and they execute. And I think Sean Payton, and it's another reason why I don't believe necessarily that Sean Payton is going to open things up. Because part of what could take this New Orleans crowd out of it is running the football, sustaining drives. Tonight's a big night for Javonte Williams in the Broncos run game, too. It's a big night for Bo Nix because for the first time this season, he unequivocally is the better quarterback in the matchup. But this team still is going to want to run the football. There's still some questions of whether they can after the Charger game. If the Broncos are able to come out on their first drive, make it a long, sustained drive where they get a touchdown, that will go a long way to taking this New Orleans crowd out of it. Because looking at the Broncos schedule, New Orleans has a chance to be the most hostile environment that Bo Nix has played in yet in the NFL. But it's only if the Broncos let it. They can take this crowd out of it. This team has lost a handful of games in a row. This fan base is looking for a reason to be like, okay, I'm out. I'm just here for the Drew Brees halftime ceremony. They're ready to be pushed over the edge, and it won't take much, but it's on the Denver Broncos to be able to do that. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on tonight's matchup between New Orleans and Denver. Of course, I would strongly encourage you to join me here at Trainwreck 812 South Sierra Madre, just a block away from Widener Field. What did we just give away, Ray? Air Force gear? Just giving away Air Force gear willy-nilly. You wear it on Saturday to the CSU game. We're giving away tickets. You might be saying, I don't have tickets for Saturday. We got those to give away as well while we are here at Trainwreck. 812 South Sierra Madre Street. Come out and join us. More Drive Time Sports coming up next. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. We got two games going on right now. One is the Yankees and Guardians. And Guardians absolutely need to win this game or they are donezo. You could say the same about the Metropolitans later tonight as they take on the Dodgers. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the dream matchup. And what a postseason this would be for baseball. Because I think you got just enough chaos early on. And I've said, I think the way you need to look at the Major League Baseball playoffs is the way you look at March Madness. You not only need to expect upsets, you need to crave them. You need to be watching for them. But ultimately, what happens with March Madness, right? When it's George Mason in the Final Four, we don't love that. Right there's an expiration date on these Cinderellas. And by the time we get to even the Elite Eight's okay, but Final Four championship game, we want the blue bloods. We want the best teams in college basketball squaring off for its biggest prize. Major League Baseball is heading down that track, right? Mets with the upset over the Phillies. Unless you're a Phillies fan, I think that's a lot of fun that the Mets knocked off Philadelphia. You had the Tigers with Terry Skubal and their Rocktober-esque run that they've made. That has now come to an end. I will say I would rather have seen the Tigers take on the Yankees than the Guardians. The Guardians, other than Jose Ramirez, don't, intrigue me that much. But we've had these fun stories. We've had the chaos, and I've enjoyed it. But now we're inching closer to Dodgers-Yankees, and that's the series that we need. I know it is going to – that half the country may be rooting for the Meteor in a Dodger-Yankee series. I'm telling you, it's going to do massive numbers. Dodgers, Yankees, Judge, Ohtani, Betts, Soto, New York, L.A., historic franchises. That's what baseball wants. And I think that's what a lot of people want. That's what I want. But we did get enough chaos within these baseball playoffs to be enjoyable. But if for instance, the Mets, I wouldn't have a huge problem if the Mets ended up knocking off the Dodgers. It wouldn't be my preferred result, but I'd be okay with it. But can you think of how different it would be if it was Guardians Mets as opposed to Yankees Dodgers? Like, that is a world of difference. Now, Mets Guardians, or even if it becomes a Subway series, and I think that's why the Mets actually would be okay winning this. They would not be my ideal choice. The Subway series would be a lot of fun. It's one of the most memorable World Series in my lifetime was that Subway series between the Mets and the Yankees. So I'm okay with that being the end result. My thing is if the Guardians get there, it is bad. That is bad. Even if you don't like the Yankees, you have to acknowledge that you'd rather see them on that stage lose than see the Guardians in any capacity. But this is a big night. If the Guardians and the Mets are going to spoil things, they got to win today. And right now, what's the score? 2-1 Guardians? Yeah, 2-1 Guardians. Bottom of 4. So a lot of time left in that game. There was an interesting discussion last night on the Avalanche broadcast because they had some extra time to fill because it was a TNT game. And Mark Rycroft and Connor McGahey, as well as Mark Bertinoli, got into this conversation because obviously Jeremy Swayman ended up getting a massive contract. His former buddy and teammate, Linus Ullmark, got a massive contract from Ottawa. Today, Jake Ottinger, one of the folk heroes of drive time sports. Ottinger, that adverb, he got paid north of $8 million. But we're all waiting to see what Igor Shesterkin is going to get. And this has relevance to the Colorado Avalanche because unless you love Justus Onanen, the Avalanche may have to dabble in the free agent market when it comes to goalies. Because Georgiev's contract expires after this year. Shesterkin reportedly turned down a massive offer. Like Jake Ottinger today got 8.3. 8 years, $66 million is what he got. Swayman was about the same spot. Shesterkin is going to blow away these two contracts. He's going to get 11. I think he's trying to get $12 million a year. But it brought on an interesting conversation last night, and it applies to a conversation we have in the NFL. Is there a bubble when it comes to goalie contracts? We have seen Omar, Swayman, and Ottinger all get massive contract extensions. Shesterkin is going to get the most massive contract extension. Is there a bubble here? Is there a limit? Because we always talk about this with the NFL, right? Well, there's got to be a point where somebody's not going to pay a quarterback. Tell me that team. Brock Purdy's going to get $60 million a year. The Miami Dolphins paid Tua. The Jaguars paid Trevor Lawrence. I don't know who's up after Brock Purdy. Dak Prescott got paid. They're going to keep doing it. And you know the reason why? Because the alternative sends shivers down the spines of coaches and general managers. You would rather overpay for a quarterback that you like to a degree than to venture out into the world and try to draft a guy or pick up a guy on the scrap heap like the Steelers have done. They will always pay. The NFL will create special exceptions, and I have been a proponent of the designated player MLS rule. You pick one player, whether it's a Beckham or a Messi or a Suarez or what, you're bringing over this huge cash cow of a guy that's going to be a superstar for your team, that's going to drive revenue. You got to pay him what his market value is, and it would absolutely obliterate the MLS salary cap. So I am a proponent of doing that with the NFL. The reason why it won't happen is not because it's not practical, not because it's not a good idea, but because the NFL owners want to keep contracts down. Even though they keep spending on quarterbacks, they'll happily do that while they tamp down everyone else's salary. They want the salary cap. They don't want any exceptions. They will keep paying quarterbacks. With goaltenders, it's different because I do believe that there is a bubble here. The NHL salary cap is more difficult to navigate than the NFL salary cap. Okay? It is a hard cap. There are very few ways of getting around it. So if you're going to pay a goalie, it is going to eat up a lot of your cap space. Here's the difference. Goalies are not as important as quarterbacks. They have a similar profile because, and just look at the last few days of Avalanche conversation, everything has been through Alexander Georgiev. Even when the Avs don't have an elite goaltender, he's the biggest discussion. And he played great last night, so that was a big story. Goaltenders are talked about like quarterbacks, but everyone acknowledges they are not as important. There will be some guys like Jake Ottinger that will deserve it. And Shesterkin, look at the Rangers. You telling me that they should lowball Igor Shesterkin at the risk of losing him? There will be these anecdotal situations where you say, okay, that makes sense. Even Jeremy Swayman makes sense to me considering his age. If there are going to be other goalies that are going to cash in over the next couple of years, with Jeremy Swayman being 25, his deal might look like a bargain. I think we're not quite to the point yet where that bubble is going to burst, but it will ultimately. Because goalie, there just aren't enough elite goaltenders. There are more good quarterbacks than there are good goaltenders. So it's similar, but I think there are enough differences to say, yeah, this isn't sustainable. Not every goalie that goes to market, Alexander Georgiev, is going to get $8 or $9 million. He's certainly not going to get it from the Avs. So I think there is a bubble. I do think some of these, if it keeps going up and up and up, it is not sustainable, and there will be a shifting back the other way. Whereas the quarterbacks, there's not going to be. There won't be. Teams will not say, hey, we'll just take our chances. It's too important of a position. But as an aside, even as much as I say Boston timed out the extension with Jeremy Swayman at the right point, who was in goal last night for the Bruins? It was Jonas Korpisalo. So you're paying Jeremy Swayman almost $8.5 million a year. He gets lit up on night one against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Disappointing, but also it's the Panthers. And you don't play him since? Yeah, play the guy if you're going to pay him $8.3, $8.5 million. But Jake Ottinger, this is a big Jake Ottinger house. Jake Ottinger's worth it. He is an elite goaltender. He is young. And this contract will look like a bargain if some of these other goalies cash in, most notably Igor Shesterkin. Igor Shesterkin is the best. He's better than Ottinger, no doubt about it. Is he $4 million a year better than Jake Ottinger with everybody else the New York Rangers have to pay? I don't know about that. So I think right now, I look at Swayman, I look at Ullmark, and I say I don't hate those extensions, but it'll be interesting to see. Ottinger, Dallas had to do it, makes all the sense in the world. Rangers try to negotiate Shesterkin down, but you got to pay him ultimately. You got to pay him because that team would not be nearly as good. And I think they're an incredibly flawed team as it is. Shesterkin's is one of the only things holding that team. 719-247-1313. Is there a goalie salary bubble? Like some people have theorized there might be with quarterbacks, although that bubble has yet to burst in the NFL. 719-247-1313. We'll continue on with this Thursday edition of Drive Time Sports live from Trainwreck. Come out and join us. I know you're getting out of work now or soon. Come out, join us, 812 South Sierra Madre Street, block from Widener Field. We'll be out here until 6, and then shortly thereafter, Denver and New Orleans will kick off. More Drive Time Sports. South Sierra Madre. Come out and join us. You can win a lot of stuff: Air Force hockey and football tickets, $50 gift card to Fanatics, and then there is a bunch of Air Force swag that we're just handing out. You don't even need to enter to win. So come out and also get your spot in front of the largest TV in Colorado Springs to get the best view of New Orleans and Denver here tonight. Let's get to a couple of texts here. I brought up it's the economy, stupid, and I was thinking it was Robert Reich, who was one of the economic advisors in the Clinton administration. I was on the right track, but from the 719, James Carville is who said that. That's right. And when I heard the name, when I read the name James Carville, I also thought about Old School, where James Carville is debating Will Ferrell's character, which then made me want to watch Old School. So I'll probably do that after the Bronco game tonight. Fun memory of the movie Old School. But yeah, it was James Carville who said that, which makes sense because he's a big name in that space. So, and he also says things like calls people stupid. So yeah, James Carville just said it. I had the right era too, 1992. That was the Clinton administration. So I was close. Give me credit. Couple of texts. Ryan comes in and says, we need one of these Avs leaders to restructure or take a hometown discount so we could pay a goaltender, even if it's Georgie, Landeskog, Nichushkin have let down their contract. Rantanen would need to take the discount. I'll say this. I don't think that the Avs are going to go out and splurge on a goaltender. I just don't. And I've talked about how they need a higher level of goaltending than what they get from Alexander Georgiev because of the guys they have lost since the Stanley Cup run. Nazem Kadri, obviously, the name that immediately comes to mind, the injury to Landeskog, all that kind of stuff. The Avs need better goaltending than they've gotten from Georgiev last regular season and this regular season, certainly. I still don't think that the Avs are going to go out and break the bank. I think, if anything, how about one of these young guys that they're showcasing for the first few weeks, they flip for a goal. So I don't think that the Avs are going to go out and spend on a goaltender. But they still need to do some restructuring. So I agree with your premise. I'm just saying maybe it's not to go out and get a goaltender. It could be just to replenish depth. Maybe get a top six guy. Maybe it's just Mikko Rantanen. Because does Mikko Rantanen need to take the discount? Is he the guy that it should be asked to take the discount? Absolutely not. It should be Nichushkin and Landeskog. And Landeskog, it's not like he's done anything wrong, right? It is what it is. He's got hurt. But at some point, he's got to start doing the Avs a favor, right? He's got to say, you know what? They've continued to pay me throughout all of this. I haven't been available for 2 years. He believes he's going to be the player he was before. I have my doubts. Once he does hit the ice, I think that maybe the Avs will have a little bit of better bargaining position to say, okay, Gabe, we've taken care of you. Now we need a little bit. Look at the state of affairs here. We need you to give some money back. Nichushkin, I don't know if they'll be able to. But to say that Mikko Rantanen has to take the discount, I don't think that he needs to. I don't think he should. It would be great if he did. I mean, full credit to him if he does, but he's one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. He should get fair market value. But we've seen Nathan MacKinnon take slightly below market value, and this has been Chris McFarland's strength since taking over for Joe Sakic in the front office. He's been able to lock guys up to extensions where you go, that's not as much as he could have gotten. So Chris McFarland is good at this. Perhaps Mikko Rantanen does not take top dollar, but he's going to be close, and he should be close because he's one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. But your premise is right. I mean, at some point, the Avs are not going to be able to navigate all this, carrying water for Gabriel Landeskog, paying Valerian Nichushkin if he's going to bail every time a Game 6 rolls around in the playoffs. Like, they got to start making some difficult decisions. And you say even more difficult than letting Naz Godry go? Yeah. Or at least more decisions. I would be shocked if at this point the Avs go out and spend a lot of money on a goaltender. I think right now Chris McFarland is looking across the NHL and he's saying, is there another Georgiev? Is there another guy that's backing up someone being a little bit overshadowed? That, like, I thought one of the Boston guys would be a good fit for the Avs, but obviously Omar goes to Ottawa, and then I saw his contract. I'm like, yeah, the Avs aren't giving him that. It's not going to be easy to find, for sure. But either Georgiev is going to have to take Georgiev, like, what can he even ask? What can Georgiev even legitimately, can he ask for the same amount as Jake Ottinger? Absolutely not. So really, it's not even a question of whether Georgiev is worth $8 million. In no universe is Alexander Georgiev worth $8 million a year. But Alexander, granted, let's say he gets better or even gets back to about what he was last year. $5 million? $6 million? That's more palatable if I'm the Colorado Avalanche. But you still have to get that money somewhere. And I would look at Landeskog first. And they've done everything right. And credit to them for doing that. They haven't done what they probably could have done and went after some of his money and tried to find every loophole to get Gabriel Landeskog's money off the books. They've used LTIR, so the loophole that's available to them they've used, but they've never asked him to restructure. Once he comes back and he's not on an LTIR anymore, he's going to have to give some money back. But given what's going on with the Colorado Avalanche right now, I got to say, those are tomorrow's problem for sure when it comes to this team. Here's a text from the 719. Ryan, if CSU loses this weekend, is Norvell a goner? Talking Air Force CSU, and I got into this a little bit yesterday with Jessica Mendoza when she was on the program. I think this game is slightly more significant for Air Force because this is one of the things that they have, this winning streak against CSU, that they can cling to, they can extend and say, as bad as this year has gotten, as much as the CIC trophies probably is not going to happen, the Mount West is getting further and further away from us, even though it's still pretty early in conference season. It just feels that way. Beating CSU, I think, would be significant for this Air Force team to say this iteration of the Falcons was at least able to keep up this standard in beating CSU. So if the game is more important to Air Force than CSU, then I cannot say that if Jay Norvell loses this game to Air Force that he is a goner. I can't say that. But what I will say is that he probably should win this game. Like, there are going to be people that will be calling for Jay Norvell if he cannot break this losing streak against Air Force. But again, I go back to it. 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks after that. 3-4 weeks, on about a month from now, November 15th at home. That's what will get Jay Norvell fired. I think it's as simple as that. The noise is going to get louder if they lose to Air Force or at home to New Mexico, certainly. But it's the November 15th game against Wyoming. If they don't beat Wyoming at Canvas, and I don't care that Torrey Horton's out. I mean, that's a huge blow to that team for sure. If they don't beat Wyoming, Wyoming is a 1-5 football team. Jay Norvell is gone. And CSU fans will not allow him to keep his job if he loses to Wyoming. Losing to Air Force would not be good. Losing to Air Force would make the noise very loud up in Fort Collins. And there would be a level of doubt that he will be able to deliver in the border war. But to me, Jay Norvell's future employment in Fort Collins is totally based on November 15th, 6 o'clock at Canvas Stadium. If he wins that game, if CSU wins that game, I don't think he's fired. Even regardless of what happens leading up to and after. So, yeah, but losing to Air Force, that would be, given where Air Force is at right now, you could argue, I get rivalry with CU is more important. Losing to Air Force would be a worse loss. Even down here in Colorado Springs, it would. Where Air Force is at right now, how much they're struggling, it would be the worst loss for the Rams this season, even considering Colorado, even considering the 52-0 loss for Texas. But in terms of Jay Norvell's future employment, it's all the Wyoming game. It's all the Wyoming game. Win, he's probably safe. Lose, he's probably not. 719-24-7. 13-13. Ryan texts in, how silly it looks now to let Grubauer go for 5.9. With that contract, would he still be under contract? That's interesting. I don't even have to ask. I'm sure that DJ will immediately come up with this information. Would Philip Grubauer still be under contract with the Avs if he would have extended back then? I don't think he would be. And Grubauer's getting forced out of Seattle. They like Joey DeCord up there. So certainly we're goaltender. But it does look like, wow, the Avs had a goaltender that they got to the second round of the playoffs with. They wouldn't pay him $6 million a year, and now look at where the goaltender salaries are going. If that's where Alexander Georgiev signs, I think the Avs can stomach it. Yeah, 6-year deal. Yep, would be. That is a long. I didn't realize it was a 6-year contract. Good looking out, DJ. By the way, on that. Yeah, 5.9. Oh boy! But it wasn't Georgiev's fault, Ryan. Last night, you saw. I'm sure. It wasn't his fault. Get into that after the top of the hour. Also on Actually, I'll hold off on that. The big college basketball story I want to get into before we're done here regarding the University of Virginia. But in the meantime, I want to let you know that you can now use your own body's healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief. It's true with QC Kinetics, advanced regenerative medicine. If you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder, this is something you need to check out. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, and you're doing it without drugs, without surgery, and there's not even any downtime that goes along with QC Kinetics treatment. I sat down with the folks at QC Kinetics a few weeks ago, and I was just blown away at what they do and in the stories from their patients and how effective this is, and how I mean, it's not too much to say that it's changed people's lives, what they've done at QC Kinetics. They've got tens of thousands of satisfied patients across the country, and I've heard from some of them right here in Colorado Springs. The consultation, totally free. If you're dealing with arthritic pain, come on. Isn't it worth a free consultation? Hear what they have to say. Call now. Take action to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics. 719-347-1988. 719-347-1988. QC Kinetics. 719-347-1988. Drive Time Sports live from Trainwreck 812 South Sierra Madre. Come out, get some dinner in you, get a beverage or two in you, check out the game tonight, win some stuff from Ray and I over the course of the next hour as well. The three stories that are driving the show coming up next.
And how would you say that one of the
Hello there. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on a Thursday. Ryan Kaufman coming your way live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre Street. A very good place, if I may say so myself, to watch a certain primetime football game between Denver, New Orleans, couple rookie quarterbacks, and largest TV in Colorado Springs in this establishment, and plenty of other televisions as well. Great food, great drink, great company. Come on out, 812 South Sierra Madre, and while you're here, you could sign up until the show is over at 6 o'clock. So there is an expiration date on this stuff. The Air Force hockey season tickets, and also the $50 gift card to Fanatics that the folks here at Trainwreck have hooked us up with. We'll give those away at 6, so you need to get out before 6 in order to sign up and potentially win those. Right now, I appreciate you tuning in, whether it's on your radio, online at extrasports1300.com, or through the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. I'm here at Trainwreck. DJ Michael's back at the Extra Sports 1300 studios. How about some What's Driving This Show?
With so many choices on Booking.com, like this waterfront hotel, even Yankees fans are loving Boston.
Oh, no.
While enjoying your hotel's view of the harbor.
All right, even though this is a football night, we start with some hockey for story number 1.
With millions of possibilities, you can be a fan of any U.S. city. Booking.com, Booking.com, yeah. We never saw him, but he told us many things. Love songs, hate her, farming, and occasionally, like for it's little heavy. Alexis yes didn't get in the studio. It began with you.
TNT on the call last night. Another rough one for the Colorado Avalanche, as for the first time since 1998, they have started a season 0-4. It was not on Alexander Georgiev last night. In fact, without him, that game would have been out of reach a long time before it ultimately got out of reach. He was not just good the first 22, 25 minutes. He was outstanding. Unfortunately, right now, with the Colorado Avalanche, they have too many problems to fix in one foul swoop. Georgiev was right. I thought the game plan last night was exactly what it needed to be out of necessity, but it did not look good. What Jared Bednar had his team do: stay home, defend, do not leak out, don't try to get up and down the ice like you normally do. We have too many guys out. Devon Taves is not available to us. That's how they've been vulnerable over the last few games, is they've been trying to play the same style of hockey while missing a multitude of different players that they need to be able to execute. So it was the right game plan. Stay home, defend. The problem is that fits this Avalanche team about as well as those little booties fit cats. You ever seen one of those cats that have the little socks on and how awkwardly they walk? That's what the Avs looked like last night. It looked like they were, even better than the cat sock thing, because I don't think that's a universal. You're essentially putting the Colorado Avalanche into a straitjacket. That's what you're doing. I don't blame Jared Bednar for doing it, because you have to with all the guys out, but the Avs were just flailing. And the only thing that worked last night for the Avs was their power play. And it's the only thing that's consistently worked for them at all this season, as they are number 1 in the NHL on the power play. Unfortunately, right now, and they only got more banged up. It's like I can't even finish my sentence before piling on with another bad thing happening to the Avalanche. Miles Wood is hurt. Kovalenko might be hurt now. Right now, there are too many problems with the Colorado Avalanche for Jared Bednar to fix. It is a positive sign that Alexander Georgiev was as good as he was last night. But this team desperately needs the cavalry. They need to get back Duran. They need to get, well, first and foremost, they need Taves back, right? Get Taves back, get Duran back, and I think the Avs will be able to kind of start to figure things out, but not before then. It was not a great performance last night from the Avs, despite their best laid plans and despite some pretty good goaltending through the first third of that hockey game from Alexander Georgiev. If you want to cling to something as an Avs fan, cling to the fact that that team I was referencing earlier ended up going to the Western Conference Finals. The difference, Alexander Georgiev is not Patrick Waugh, and Cal Ritchie and Mason Steinberg, as much as I loved what Steinberg did to hit Zaha and go after and battle with Zadorov, they are not Chris Drury and Milan Haydu. There are some similarities between those two teams, but the ceiling is not as high as currently constructed. They need their guys back. Avs 0-4, and if Nashville beats Edmonton or even goes to overtime against Edmonton tonight, the Avs will be the last remaining team in the NHL to not have picked up a point in the standings. And yes, that is depressing. Here's story number 2.
Absolutely. He's slow to play. He did a good job. He probably saw his number one look. He got a little mix up his looks at second base. He probably gave one, tied him up, and took off. And he got a great job. It's a situation. 100%. It's a ball in play situation. You feel the infield. I'm sorry to walk out there.
That is Broncos quarterback Bo Nix talking about the slow starts. Tonight, the Broncos played the Saints. The more I look at this game, the more I say the Denver Broncos should absolutely win tonight, and it should be one of their better performances this season. Short turnaround, road game, and all. This is the worst defense in the NFL they are going up against. Their offense is a complete and utter mash unit. They are without their best 2 receivers. They are on a rookie quarterback starting just his second game. They have multiple linemen who are banged up. Alvin Kamara, the one player on the Saints offense that would worry you at all if you're Vance Joseph, is far less than 100%. I can't find the reason why the Denver Broncos should lose this game, except for one, and you just heard Bo Nix allude to. That dome, Superdome, Caesars Dome, whatever they call it these days, can be one of the loudest and most hostile environments in the National Football League. And even though Bo Nix is a grizzled veteran compared to his counterpart Spencer Rattler, he is still a rookie. And if the Broncos don't get off to a decent start tonight, that crowd that is already hyped for Sean Payton's return, that is hyped for Drew Brees to go into the Hall of Fame or the Ring of Fame or whatever thing they're honoring Drew Brees with, that crowd will get louder and louder and louder, and it will turn into the most difficult environment Bo Nix will have played in his young NFL career. All of what I see from the Broncos, their advantage going against Spencer Rattler, the fact that they should be a little bit better prepared to not have Pat Surtain, how banged up New Orleans is, all of these things that I stack up and I say, it's Sean Payton revenge game. All of this stuff stacks up and tells me that the Broncos should absolutely win tonight. The one out I am putting in is if the Broncos don't get off to a good start. Ideal scenario, win the coin toss, defer, get after Spencer Rattler, take the crowd out of it, then get the ball back, go on a sustained drive led by your run game, get into the end zone, and take this crowd out of it. If you give them a reason to continue to go crazy or get even crazier, a lot of this stuff isn't going to matter as much because now Bo Nix is a rookie in a very loud indoor stadium. And we have seen that Bo Nix has not shown the ability yet when a game is up for grabs to come through. And some of that stuff is going to start to come up. A fast start tonight is absolutely imperative for the Denver Broncos if they are going to win tonight and avoid losing back-to-back games. Story number 3 is a shocking story out of college basketball, but not really if you listen to this program or just follow college basketball. Tony Bennett, who led Virginia not only to a upset at the hands of a 16 seed, not his finest moment, more so his national championship, but I believe he's the only coach to lose to a 16 seed and also win a national title. But he is retiring right before basketball season starts. Preseason polls are starting to come out. Mount West came out today. Air Force starts up on November 4th. We're right there, and Virginia's head coach is bailing. Now, there is no report of any kind of impropriety. What this looks to me like is Tony Bennett, like so many other coaches, is fed up with what is going on in college athletics right now. And he's saying, I can't deal with it. And maybe it's not even fed up, although there's got to be some real emotion if you're going to bail on your team just a few weeks before the season starts. Like, this is, and I get why some people are like, well, what did he do? What rule did he break? What are you talking about? This is college athletics. There are no rules. Tony Bennett didn't break any rules. There are no rules. But I understand why people would go down that path. I think this is just a guy that has accomplished the ultimate accomplishment, and he's like, I can't keep up. Either he may disagree with it, he may like it, but this is somebody that's like, I can't handle it anymore. And DJ just texted in to me and has a great point. This could be health related, but could that be part of a bigger picture here? That Tony Bennett with health, and we don't know, we're all theorizing at this point, but if it's health, unless it's something absolutely dire, couldn't it be like, I'm not in good enough health to do this job with everything that it entails? So we'll wait to find out what actually is going on here with Tony Bennett, but this is abrupt, and it's leading people to draw some major conclusions about it. But whenever a coach walks away, especially someone that has had success under the old ways of doing things in college athletics, my mind goes to the current state of affairs. And some of these accomplished coaches saying, look, I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish. I can't keep doing this. But we'll wait to find out. I'm not reporting anything. I'm theorizing like everybody else. Impropriety with the NCAA has been thrown out there. Health, we'll wait to find out. But this is, he's going to have a press conference on Friday, which would lead me to believe that, and maybe I'm assuming wrong here, that there's nothing really bad here in terms of breaking any rules or any misbehavior. But it's enough. But it is, whether it's the ultimate reason why he's stepping aside or not. Here is another coach that we have lost that has been one of the staples of college basketball for many years, that is now giving way to a new generation of college coach that has to be well versed in a lot of very different things than Bennett and Coach K and some of these other coaches, Izzo, et cetera, et cetera. But Tony Bennett, curious the timing, and we'll find out more tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and exactly what it is, the reason why he's leaving at this point. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. Drive Time Sports Live from Trainwreck. Coming up next, I don't know who the front runner for NFL MVP is right now, but I know who it will be if he does his job on Sunday. I'll tell you who it is next on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. Come down here, get your seat for the Broncos and Saints game coming up just after 6 o'clock. And in the meantime, you can win tickets. We still have some CSU Air Force football tickets to give away, some Air Force Lindenwood hockey tickets for Sunday to give away. But the big prizes, season tickets worth, what do I want to say here? Season tickets from here on out to Air Force hockey, which includes Colorado College, which includes Army, and all the other games remaining this season. And then a $50 gift certificate to Fanatics that has been given to us generously by the folks here at Trainwreck from their friends at Modelo. Interesting that this story came about today, because I was just having this conversation earlier today. NFL MVP. Before I go any further, who's the MVP in the NFL right now? Think about that. Maybe you have a name in your mind, but you're probably not 1,000% sold on it. Maybe you don't say it with a ton of conviction. And I know the reason why. Because if you really want to take everything into account, I mean, really, do you know who the MVP is right now in the NFL? It's Jaden Daniels. But he won't win. He won't win. We did this with CJ Stroud last year. Like, they won't do it. They will honor him as the rookie of the year, which he is far and away the rookie of the year right now. Although you've seen both some signs from Caleb Williams and Bo Nix that maybe at some point Jaden Daniels will have some competition. Right now, he really doesn't. Malik Neighbors is hurt. Marvin Harrison, haven't heard much from him out in Arizona. I think you could honestly make the best case right now for Jaden Daniels. But he's not going to get it. And if it's not him, and even his resume, you could poke some holes in it, sure. Where would you go if not Jaden Daniels? And right now, the Baltimore Ravens are trying to hype up MV3, which I believe was done most recently by the Denver Nuggets. So how dare the Baltimore Ravens infringe on the trademark that I'm sure the Nuggets have in MV3, because they were the first team ever to think of MV3 instead of MVP. Lamar Jackson isn't buying into it, right? Saying that's fine, whatever, normal stuff. Really don't care about the hype. And I think Lamar Jackson over the last few weeks has made a strong case to be in the running. But right now, because, and we go back to the beginning of the season, right? A lot of these games were not aesthetically pleasing. There weren't big scores put up. There's not anybody that's Jaden Daniels is coming to mind because he's a rookie and he's doing what he's doing. A lot of other guys are kind of, all bunched up. I'm going to tell you, whoever you may have, and I would be curious your thoughts, 719-247-1313, who you think right now the MVP in the NFL. But I will tell you, no matter who you say, on Monday, if the 49ers beat the Kansas City Chiefs, Brock Purdy will be talked about as the front runner for MVP. 1,000%. He is in a contract year. I know we just saw Jordan Mason run all over teams, but they don't have Christian McCaffrey. Ayuk, Samuel, there's some unsettledness there. Brock Purdy is going to be the front runner for the MVP. That will be the conversation if the 49ers beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday. In fact, I have seen people try to make a case that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. And I love Patrick Mahomes like I love my children. There is no universe in which Patrick Mahomes is even remotely in the conversation for the most valuable player at this point. It's going to be Brock Purdy. He will be discussed as the front runner for MVP come Monday if the 49ers beat the Chiefs. That is the marquee event of the weekend. It's a Super Bowl rematch. They'll already be talking about it when it comes to, well, have the 49ers gotten over the hump? Have they figured out the Kansas City Chiefs? And that will inevitably lead them right into an easy conversation, which is Brock Purdy the leading candidate for MVP? And the answer from more people than not on Monday will be yes. Statistically, Brock Purdy has thrown for the second most yards in the NFL. He is lagging behind Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, and that's the big thing here. If the Bengals could find ways to win any football games, Joe Burrow would be running away with this thing. If the Bengals had a record that we expected the Bengals to have coming into this season, Joe Burrow would be absolutely the MVP. And it pains me to say that because Joe Burrow was my pick to win MVP. But he's not. He's not because the Bengals aren't winning enough. Jordan Love's been banged up. Lamar Jackson has come on over the last few weeks. Josh Allen's going to be in the conversation. But again, it's a little murky. There's not a guy that has kind of outpaced the field in this. And I'm not saying that if you named Darnold, Ray handed me a note because he says Darnold or Goff. They're in the conversation. That's the point. This is wide open. There is not someone who has grabbed the bull by the proverbial horns and has made a case that he is unequivocally the early season MVP. You could throw in Joe Burrow. You could throw in Sam Darnold. You could throw in Lamar Jackson. You could throw in Josh Allen. You could throw in Jared Goff. You could throw in Brock Purdy at this point. But if he wins against the Chiefs and he plays, let's say, as well as he played against them in the Super Bowl, I promise you he will be the perceived front runner for the MVP. That and $1.50 will buy me my morning coffee. But I'm telling you, he's going to be that guy come Monday. Because that will be one of the most significant games of the NFL calendar so far. It will be the most significant game of Sunday, and it will be a significant win for the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy will be the front runner for MVP if the 49ers beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday and Brock Purdy plays well. I'll take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Tyler texts in, I want to say this loud enough so Ray hears me. TJ Watt, MVP. My on-site producer here, Ray Dominguez, is a Steeler fan, and we have been discussing the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson saga on a weekly basis, and the Steelers' everlasting pursuit of another wide receiver. And we had this conversation this morning, didn't we? That you said TJ Watt, that he should, but he won't. You can make that case that he should, he won't. And again, I go back to last year. If Tyreek Hill was not the MVP, they are absolutely just going to give it to quarterbacks. They will bend over backwards to give it to a quarterback because Tyreek Hill, there was no quarterback that played so exceptionally well that it was obvious Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback in the NFL. He was not the best player, and he wasn't the MVP. That was Tyreek Hill. And nobody joined me. I was out on my own island talking about Tyreek Hill winning the MVP. Another text in from Eric. This might be the year a non-quarterback wins. Derrick Henry has got to be the top non-QB candidate. I think that's a really good point. I don't know that this is the year that a non-quarterback will win, because I thought that last year would be that. I thought that last year there was every reason to vote somebody else.
Yeah, of course.
And now there's no Christian McCaffrey because he would be a logical place to go. But you're absolutely right. But it almost makes my point, though, that you pointing out Derrick Henry, acknowledging rightly that Derrick Henry has been the bigger reason why the Baltimore Ravens have played better over the last few weeks, and still the Baltimore Ravens themselves are pushing MV3. They're not even pushing Derrick Henry. And they're watching that they're doing better because of Derrick Henry. You want to know our quarterback bias and how far it goes? His own team won't even promote him as the potential MVP of the league. They're promoting Lamar, a guy that says he doesn't care. Why I say Brock Purdy is for all the reasons I pointed out in terms of how big and how many eyeballs are going to be on the San Francisco-Kansas City game on Sunday. But it's also because they will find every opportunity to give it to a quarterback. If I had to talk about the most deserving players for MVP, TJ Watt, it wouldn't this be? And then I'll take a break. How about this? If I told you, and where'd Ray go? Ray's all the way on the other side of the bar. He probably can't hear us. If I told you that TJ Watt would win MVP, and gosh, he's going to have an even better case if they put in Russell Wilson and they actually do this thing and basically say what Justin Fields did means nothing, and they're going to go to Russ, and let's say they have similar success, which I don't think they'll necessarily have, but let's say they do. TJ Watt will have a better case for MVP. They had Justin Fields. They moved to Russell Wilson. Guess what? They had the same success. Why? TJ Watt. So what I propose right here and now, and we can include Derrick Henry in the conversation. Right now, front runner for MVP between you and I is TJ Watt, and then defensive player of the year, because that seems too small for the impact TJ Watt is making, goes to Pat Surtain. Granted that he is healthy after this one. How about that? I know that probably would not happen because if TJ Watt were deserving of the MVP, they give him defensive player of the year. But I'm here to broker a deal. TJ Watt gets the MVP. Pat Surtain gets defensive player of the year. And Derrick Henry gets offensive player of the year, which he actually might get because they don't have a quarterback bias when it comes to offensive player of the year. Ray, what do you think about this? I said TJ Watt gets the MVP, Pat Surtain defensive player of the year.
I like it.
He likes it. That's all I need. Book it. What week are we in? We're not even into double digits yet. We're halfway to double digits. I'm telling you, it's going to be Brock Purdy. Just turn on First Take. Turn on whatever. What's that show? First Things First. Turn on Colin Cowherd. Turn on Dan Patrick. Do whatever you want to do. Brock Purdy, in more places than not, will be the front runner for MVP come Monday if he leads the San Francisco 49ers to a win over the Kansas City Chiefs. 719-24-7. 13-13. We'll take a break. People starting to file in here. We're what? 40 minutes away from kickoff with Thursday night football. Steelers and Broncos. Get your seat here in front of this spectacular 24-foot television. What did I say? Steelers. Sorry, I have Steelers on the. Actually, I would like a rematch. I would like the matchup to see another matchup between the Steelers and the Broncos more than I would like to see the Saints and the Broncos tonight. But we'll just have to wait for the playoffs. Right for that, Russell Wilson against Bo Nix in the playoffs. 719. Now I'm just getting silly. 719, 24-7, 13-13. Back after this. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, live from Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. Come on out. If you're in the neighborhood, drop by. Still a chance to enter to win a $50 gift certificate to Fanatics and also a slew of Air Force hockey tickets. How about every game from here on out? We'll be drawing for those right after I am done speaking in this final segment. Also coming up here at Trainwreck, there are a couple of UFC events that are going on. Coming up on Saturday, there's UFC Fight Night, and they're going to be showing that here at Trainwreck. That is their big event. And then don't forget the following week, I believe UFC 308 is in Abu Dhabi. Resident MMA guy, Ray, is that 308 in Abu Dhabi? Yeah. So that will be an earlier start for that one. That'll be an afternoon UFC event. UFC 308. Who's Max Holloway on that card? Should be a good one. Main card is at noon. No cover for that one. I know other places you go, and I used to go out and watch a ton of UFC, and we try to find the place with no cover. No cover here at Trainwreck. If you want to come out and watch UFC 308 on Saturday, again, the main card begins at noon. MLB playoffs going on, and don't forget the slate of college football this Saturday. Georgia and Texas, biggest game of the weekend. Alabama and Tennessee should be a good one. And a little bit later in the evening, how about Buffs Wildcats? So Trainwreck's got them all. Trust me. They have all the TVs, but those are some of the things. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, the UFC fights. That's what's going to be featured on the largest television in Colorado Springs. But they got so many other TVs that are showing right now. You got college football game going on right next to the baseball. Where are we at with the baseball, by the way? Oh, 3-1 Guardians, top of the 8th. We got that going on. BC and Va Tech. And then, of course, Broncos and Saints coming up. So you can watch it all here at Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. So get down here, even if you can't make it in the next 15, 20 minutes while Ray and I are here. I come down here a lot. It's great. Trust me. You'll enjoy yourself. Getting to the MVP, the cloudy MVP picture. I want to get DJ's vote in on this, and he says CJ Stroud, which, again, not a bad choice. Not if it won't be if Brock Purdy wins on Sunday, but it just goes to show that right now. I mean, just look at it. Let's say we go quarterbacks here. Okay? You have Baker Mayfield leads the league in touchdowns. Is that going to make one lick of difference to anybody? No. No one's voting for Baker Mayfield for MVP. Joe Burrow. People will be dying to vote for Joe Burrow with the numbers he's putting up. He's completing 72% of his passes. He's got 12 touchdowns. He's got almost 1,600 yards. His team's not winning enough. Jordan Love just came back from injury. Sam Darnold. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to be the coach of the year, which means that Sam Darnold will not be the MVP. Lamar Jackson, I doubt they want to give it to him a third time. Josh Allen, we'll see if Buffalo kind of gets back with that Jets win, starts putting up some bigger numbers with Amari Cooper in the mix. Josh Allen, certainly. CJ Stroud is in there. Aaron Rodgers is so not in the mix. So that, I mean, you can, and then I'm throwing in Brock Purdy. I mean, you can make a case. And Goff, Ray's boy, has 8 touchdowns. He is got a little more than 1,100 yards. Oh, I'm sorry, 1,300 yards. He's 13th in the NFL in passing. He is 12th in touchdowns. Jared Goff's not the front runner, and his QBR is 49. But it's not a bad pick, but it's just going to my point that, and I'll say the ultimate here is when I have seen supposedly reputable sports outlets making the case for Patrick Mahomes. When that happens, you know that no one knows who the hell to pick, because there's no way Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's a crisis right now with Patrick Mahomes in this Chiefs offense. It's a crisis. Patrick Mahomes, the MVP. Give me. No. But that's how much it's like throw it a dart at a dartboard. Figure it out. All right. Broncos are going to win this game, right? Have to. I mean, they're just Spencer Rattler's going to beat this Broncos defense on Sean Payton's homecoming. I know Drew Brees is being inducted into the whatever Hall of whatever. The Broncos can't lose this game. And this is the first game since Vegas. The only game other than Vegas where I have been so firm in my stance that the Denver Broncos must win. They must win. They need to win. They should win. Rookie quarterback against a heavy blitzing defense. Bo Nix will be the better quarterback in this game. Sean Payton will exhaust every avenue he can to put it to the team that actually he wronged, if you really think about it. I mean, I know he did a lot of good things for the New Orleans Saints, but he didn't leave them on the best of terms or in the best situation. The Broncos should win this game. If they don't win this game, now it's like you're going to have and think about it, 10 days between now and when they get sweet relief going up against the worst team in football in the Carolina Panthers. But 10 days to sit there and answer questions about how Sean Payton didn't get it done in his return to New Orleans, how Bo Nix got outplayed by Spencer Rattler, how against the worst defense in the league, who went yard? Who was that?
Judge.
Oh, I was told that Aaron Judge was not a playoff performer. That's what I was told. And yet here he is going deep. I guess it's the Ghosts. Are the Ghosts out in center field in Cleveland? Is it the Ghosts? Yankees tied up. Anyway, where was I? Oh, Saints are going to blow out the Broncos. No, I just can't find the reason why the Broncos should lose this game, and it is going to be a miserable existence for the Denver Broncos over the next 10 days if they have to answer questions about how they lost this game to a rookie quarterback playing his second game. It could be close. It could be. It's a one-score league, right? And that happens all the time. I got to say, I'd take the Broncos in laying the 3. The more I think about this game, the more I think this has to be a Broncos win. And the Saints are reeling, and the Saints are banged up, and the Saints are going nowhere fast. Broncos got to win this game. Got to win this game. I'll take them and lay the 3. See where that gets me. Couple of texts from the 719. Brandon Aubrey for MVP. Dude has put up half of our points for the Cowboys. Without him, we have no offense. Carrying the team on his back. Really his leg. Did I see that Jerry Jones threatened people that didn't work for him? So he does a radio show down in Dallas. It is the competitor of our company's station down there. And he threatened the host to fire them, and they don't even. That's how delusional Jerry Jones is. He thinks he owns the radio. Somebody had to go to Jerry Jones after the interview and said, "You realize you don't own that radio station, right?" He's like, "Wait a minute. I thought I was on Cowboys Talk Radio." Might be right. Actually, and Stanton Wynyard. Yankees. Good thing he didn't split them up. What a turn of events in Cleveland. This does feel like my childhood. I watched the New York Yankees get the better of Cleveland's baseball team. 4-3 Yankees. What a turn. That's I give the Guardians a chance in this one. If they lose this, they're done. They're done. And I don't think they even salvage a game out of this series if they win. This is brutal. And they're appealing that Stanton didn't touch first. He touched first. We're not doing this. It's all. But what we should do is create a all non-quarterback list of MVP. So we got Brandon Aubrey. We'll get TJ Watt. We'll get Pat Surtain, because if the Broncos lose tonight and they lost against the Chargers, we'll know that Pat Surtain is more than just the defensive player of the year. He's also in the running for MVP. We'll put Derrick Henry on that list. Who else should we put on? We'll get it together. We still got another show coming up tomorrow. Bosa. There you go, Nick Bosa. Throw him on the list. I want to start an anti-quarterback MVP campaign. I will not talk about a quarterback winning MVP the rest of the season. I will continue to make a case for non-quarterback. Enough is enough. It is time. Speaking of time, that's all my time. Big thanks to the folks here at Trainwreck. Every time I come out here, we have a blast, and I hope to be doing it again very soon. So appreciate their hospitality. Make sure you get down here. If you're not here yet, get down here, get your seat. Trust me, this will be your place that you want to go to and watch the games here at Trainwreck. So appreciate that. I do, before I go, I mentioned Broncos laying the 3, and I think that's where I'm going. You know what I'm laying the 3 on, and that's Circa Sports Colorado. Circa Sports strives to make it better for the better, talking about the experience. Lowest hold on futures in other big markets. They strive to be a -110 split, unlike other sports books that go $115, $20. And they don't limit players based on their winnings. And just to top it all off, because they've thought of everything, if you ever have an issue with the app, their customer service reps are not chatbots. They're real people, the same people that you'll meet out at Circa Resort and Casino in Vegas. So do what I did. Download the Circa Sports Colorado app. Make it your betting app of choice. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Due to contractual obligations, we will not have Broncos and Saints, but you better believe I'll be talking about it quite a bit tomorrow at 3. My thanks to Ray Dominguez here at Trainwreck. DJ Michaels back at the Extra Sports 1300 studio. But of course, first and foremost, you for listening, for interacting. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll talk tomorrow about this Broncos Saints game here on Extra Sports 1300.